The wait that changed everything. Harper Reed checked her phone for the 5th time in 20 minutes. Still nothing. No message, no call, no explanation. She sat alone at a corner table in one of Chicago's most expensive restaurants, feeling smaller with each passing minute. The white tablecloth seemed too bright, the crystal glasses too perfect, and her carefully chosen blue dress suddenly felt like a costume she had no business wearing. 45 minutes. That was how long she had been waiting for someone who clearly was not coming. The dating app had seemed promising. His profile said he was a financial advisor named Ryan, successful and charming. When he suggested this restaurant, she thought maybe her luck was finally changing. Instead, she was getting a painful reminder that sometimes hope just sets you up for disappointment. When everything shifted, a server approached again. His expression professionally neutral, but his eyes holding that unmistakable pity that made
Harper want to disappear through the floor.
Before he could speak, a deep voice cut through her embarrassment. "Is this seat taken?" Harper looked up and forgot how to breathe. The man standing beside her table was unlike anyone she had ever seen in person. Tall, probably over 6 feet, with dark hair styled perfectly and a jawline that looked like it belonged in a magazine. His navy suit fit him like it had been made specifically for his body, which it probably had. But what caught her attention most were his eyes, an unusual shade of green that seemed to see right through her defenses. "I was waiting for someone," Harper said quietly, then added with a bitter laugh, "but he is not coming." The stranger glanced at the untouched place setting across from her, then back at her face. Something flickered in his expression, something that looked almost like recognition, though they had never met before. "His loss," the man said simply. Then, without asking permission, he pulled out the empty chair and sat down. "I am Carter." The boldness of stranger's Harper stared at him, caught between confusion and curiosity. "What are you doing?" Carter signaled the server with a subtle gesture that spoke of someone used to being obeyed. "Saving your evening from being a complete disaster." He turned those green eyes back to her. "Unless you would rather sit here alone, thinking about someone who does not deserve another second of your time?" She should have told him to leave. Should have been offended by his assumption that she needed saving. But something in his directness, in the way he looked at her like she was worth his attention, made her pause. "Harper," she said finally, accepting his unspoken offer. "My name is Harper Reed." Harper repeated her name like he was committing it to memory. "That is a strong name. It suits you." The server returned, now looking relieved that she was no longer alone. Carter ordered without looking at the menu, speaking with the confidence of someone who had been here many times before. He chose dishes Harper had only read about in food magazines, plus a bottle of wine whose name she did not recognize, but whose price she could probably guess. Conversations. "That matter, do you always do this?" Harper asked once the server left. "Rescue women who have been stood up?" Carter leaned back in his chair, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Never. I saw you sitting here, looking like you were trying to decide whether to leave or order the most expensive thing on the menu out of spite. I found that interesting." Despite herself, Harper laughed. "I was definitely considering the spite option. Smart choice." His smile widened. "Always make them pay, even if they are not here to see it." The food arrived in courses, each one more beautiful than the last. Harper tried to maintain her composure, but everything was so far beyond her normal experience that she felt like an actor in someone else's life. Carter noticed, of course. "You are uncomfortable," he observed, not as a question, but as a statement. Harper set down her fork. "This place costs more for one meal than I spend on groceries in a month. Yes, I am a little uncomfortable." The truth between them, Carter studied her for a long moment. "I appreciate honesty. Most people would have pretended otherwise." He paused, then added, "I own Blackwell Industries. Perhaps you have heard of it." Harper had heard of it. Everyone had. Blackwell Industries was one of the largest tech companies in the country, worth billions, which meant the man sitting across from her was not just wealthy. He was one of those people you read about in business magazines, the kind of rich that seemed almost fictional. "So you are not just successful," Harper said slowly. You are that kind of successful? Does that change things? She considered the question seriously. It should probably scare me more than it does. Carter leaned forward, his intensity suddenly focused entirely on her. Why does not it scare you? Because right now, you are just a guy who kept me from eating dessert alone while crying in the bathroom. Everything else is just background noise. Something shifted in Carter's expression. The polished exterior cracked just slightly, revealing something more genuine underneath. You have no idea how rare that is. People either want something from me, or they are too intimidated to be real. You are doing neither. The unexpected question, as the evening wore on, Harper found herself relaxing. Carter was funny in a dry, clever way. He asked about her work as a graphic designer and actually listened to her answers. He did not talk about his money or his success unless she asked. For someone who could buy anything in the world, he seemed genuinely interested in her very ordinary life. When the check came, Carter did not even glance at it before placing his black credit card on the table. Harper started to protest, but he stopped her with a look. This evening has been worth far more than whatever's on that bill. Let me do this. They walked outside into the cool Chicago night. The city lights reflected off the river, creating ribbons of gold and silver in the water. Harper wrapped her arms around herself, not quite ready for the evening to end, but not sure what came next. Carter stood close, enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. I want to show you something. What kind of something? My world. The real parts, not the parts you read about in magazines. He held out his hand. Come with me. No expectations, no pressure. Just a chance to see what your evening could have been if you had met the right person from the start. Harper looked at his outstretched hand. Every practical bone in her body screamed that this was crazy. You did not just go off with strangers, even handsome billionaire strangers who paid for expensive dinners. But when she looked into Carter's eyes, she did not see danger. She saw a possibility. The leap of faith, she took his hand. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb as if it had been waiting for a signal. Of course he had a driver. Carter opened the door for her, and Harper slid into the leather interior that smelled like money and possibility. As the car pulled away from the restaurant, Harper caught her reflection in the tinted window. She barely recognized the woman looking back at her. Just 2 hours ago, she had been ready to go home, delete all her dating apps, and resign herself to being alone. Now, she was in a car with a man who looked at her like she was the most interesting person in the world. Where are we going? She asked as the city lights blurred past. Carter's hand found hers in the darkness of the back seat. Somewhere I have never taken anyone else. Harper's heart raced, but not from fear. From excitement, from the wild impossibility of this entire night, she squeezed his hand back, feeling the warmth of his palm against hers. "'Kay," she whispered. "Show me." As the car wound through Chicago's streets toward whatever came next, Harper realized that sometimes the worst nights turn into the beginning of something extraordinary. Sometimes getting stood up leads you exactly where you were meant to be. And sometimes the right person shows up at precisely the moment you stop looking for them. The city faded behind them as they drove toward Carter's world. And Harper felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Real, terrifying, beautiful hope. The penthouse in the sky, the elevator rose so smoothly that Harper barely felt the movement. The numbers climbed higher and higher until they reached the very top floor. When the doors opened, they stepped directly into Carter's penthouse. Not a hallway, not a lobby, straight into his home. Harper's breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the entire space, offering a view of Chicago that made her feel like she was floating above the city. The lights below twinkled like a blanket of stars brought down to earth. The interior was modern but warm, with comfortable furniture that looked actually lived in, not like a showroom. "This is where you live?" Harper asked, walking toward the windows as if pulled by an invisible force. Carter shrugged off his jacket, draping it over a chair. "When I am in Chicago, yes. I have other places, but this is home." She turned to look at him. "Other places. Of course you do." He crossed the room to a bar area and poured 2 glasses of water, bringing one to her. You are doing it again. Doing what? Reminding yourself that I am different from you. That this is not your world. What? Carter set down his glass and stepped closer. But here's the truth, Harper. I am tired of my world. The people in it want my money, my connections, my influence. Nobody just wants me. The honest truth. Harper studied his face, seeing the exhaustion beneath the polished exterior. That sounds lonely. It is. Carter moved to the window, staring out at the city below. I built everything from nothing. My father was a mechanic. My mother cleaned houses. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. Made my first million before I was 25, and everyone started treating me differently. She joined him at the window, standing close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Success changed how people saw you. It changed everything. Old friends wanted loans. New friends wanted investments. Women wanted the lifestyle. He turned to face her. You are the first person in years who looked annoyed when I sat down at your table. Do you know how refreshing that was? Harper laughed despite herself. I thought you were going to make my bad evening worse. Did I? She met his eyes. No, you saved it. Walls coming down, they moved to the couch, sitting at opposite ends at first, but gradually shifting closer as they talked. Carter asked about her childhood in a small town in Indiana. Her art school dreams that became a practical design career. Her tiny apartment with the broken heater that her landlord kept promising to fix. In return, he told her about sleeping in his car while starting his first company, the moment he knew he had made it. And the strange emptiness that came with having everything money could buy, but nobody real to share it with. I have been on dozens of dates, Carter admitted. Women who knew exactly who I was before they sat down. They had researched me, planned their answers, dressed to impress. Everything felt like a performance. And tonight, Harper asked quietly, tonight you wore a dress for someone who did not deserve to see you in it. You had no idea who I was. And when you found out, you still treated me like a regular person who just bought you dinner. He reached over, his fingers barely brushing her hand. That means more than you know. The moment everything changed, Harper's heart pounded as his hand covered hers completely. The touch was gentle but deliberate. Carter, I work in a small design firm. My biggest accomplishment this year was getting a client to approve a logo on the first try. We are from completely different worlds, so what? His thumb traced circles on her palm. Different worlds can intersect. They can overlap. They can become one world if the people in them want it enough. She looked up at him, seeing the sincerity in those green eyes. Why me? Really? You could have anyone. Carter shifted closer, his free hand reaching up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. Because when you laugh, you mean it. Because you called my line about rescuing you terrible, but smiled anyway. Because you were sitting in a penthouse, worth more than most people see in a lifetime. And you are more concerned about whether I am lonely than whether I could buy you things. I do not want you to buy me things, Harper whispered. I know. That is exactly why I cannot stop thinking about you. The space between them disappeared. Carter's hand slid to the back of her neck, his fingers threading through her hair. Harper's breath hitched as he leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She did not want to pull away. The kiss that sealed everything when their lips met. It was soft at first. Tentative, like they were both afraid to break whatever spell had been cast over this impossible night. But then Harper's hand clutched his shirt, pulling him closer, and the gentleness gave way to something deeper. Carter kissed her like she was precious. Like she was the answer to a question he had been asking for years. His other arm wrapped around her waist, drawing her against him until there was no space left between them. Harper melted into him, to the warmth and strength and unexpected tenderness. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Carter rested his forehead against hers. Stay. Harper's eyes fluttered open. What? Stay tonight. Not because of this. He gestured around the penthouse. Not because of who I am or what I have. Stay because you feel this too. Whatever this is between us. The decision to trust every logical part of Harper's brain listed the reasons this was insane. She had known him for 3 hours. He was a billionaire with a life she could not begin to understand. This could be a one-night fantasy that would leave her heartbroken when reality came crashing back. But then she looked at Carter. Really looked at him. Past the expensive suit and the powerful presence, she saw a man who was tired of being alone. A man who had achieved everything except the one thing that mattered. Someone to be real with. I feel it too, Harper admitted. It scares me. Carter's hand cupped her face. It scares me too. I do not do this. I do not bring women here. I do not open up about my life. I keep everything controlled, manageable, safe. His thumb brushed her cheek. But safe is also lonely. And I am tired of being lonely. Harper made her decision. She leaned in and kissed him again, softer this time but no less meaningful. Okay, I will stay. The night that followed, Carter stood, pulling her up with him. He led her through the penthouse to a guest room with its own bathroom, providing her with a t-shirt to sleep in and showing her where everything was. The gesture was thoughtful, giving her space and choice rather than assumptions. Sleep well, Harper Reed, he said from the doorway. Carter? He turned back. Thank you. For everything tonight. The smile was genuine, reaching all the way to his eyes. No, thank you. After he left, Harper changed and slipped under sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She stared at the ceiling, trying to process everything that had happened. This morning she had been dreading another disappointing date. Now she was sleeping in a billionaire's penthouse after the most perfect evening of her life. Before she could overthink it further, exhaustion from the emotional roller coaster pulled her under. She fell asleep with a smile on her face, dreaming of green eyes and gentle hands, and the possibility that sometimes fairy tales could be real. Down the hall, Carter stood on his terrace, looking out at the city, but seeing only Harper's face. For the first time in years, his penthouse did not feel empty. For the first time in years, he felt like himself again. Not Carter Blackwell, billionaire CEO, just Carter. Just a man who had met someone who made him remember what it felt like to be human. He pulled out his phone, canceling his morning meetings without a second thought. Tomorrow, he wanted to be fully present for whatever came next. Because something told him that Harper Reed was going to change his life. And for once, change felt like exactly what he needed. Sunrise over the city. Harper woke to sunlight streaming through windows she did not recognize. For a confused moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then memory flooded back. The restaurant, Carter, the kiss, everything. She sat up quickly, running her hands through her tangled hair. Her dress from last night was draped carefully over a chair. She was wearing a shirt that smelled faintly of expensive cologne. This was real. All of it was real. The smell of coffee drew her out of the guest room. She padded barefoot through the penthouse, following the scent to the kitchen area, where Carter stood at the counter. He had changed into jeans and a simple gray t-shirt, and somehow he looked even better than he had in the suit. His hair was slightly messy, like he had run his hands through it a few times. When he saw her, his whole face transformed. Good morning. His voice was warm, intimate in a way that made her stomach flip. Morning. Harper suddenly felt shy, aware that she was wearing nothing but his shirt. I hope this is okay. The shirt, I mean. Carter's eyes traveled over her slowly, appreciatively. It is more than okay. Coffee, please. The morning conversation, they sat at his dining table, which probably seated 12 but felt intimate with just the two of them at one corner. Carter had laid out fresh pastries, fruit, and somehow knew she took her coffee with cream and 1 sugar, even though she had never told him. You remember how I took my coffee last night? Harper asked, impressed. I remember everything about last night. Carter's gaze was steady, serious. Every word, every expression, every moment. Harper's heart did that flip thing again. Carter, we should probably talk about this. About what happens now. I know. He set down his mug. I have been thinking about it all morning. Actually, I barely slept thinking about it. She waited, letting him find his words. I want to see you again, Carter said simply. Not just today. Not just this week. I want to actually date you, Harper. Real dates, getting to know each other, figuring out if what we felt last night can become something more. The reality check. Harper bit her lip. You say that now, but you live in penthouses and fly private. I live in a 4th-floor walk-up with a neighbor who plays guitar at 2 in the morning. Your world and mine do not exactly mesh. Carter leaned forward. Then we build a new world. One that works for both of us. It is not that simple. Why not? His intensity was back, focused entirely on her. I have spent 10 years building a company, managing hundreds of employees, making deals worth millions of dollars. If I can do all that, I can figure out how to be with someone who actually sees me. Someone who makes me feel like a person instead of a bank account. Harper felt tears prick her eyes. You make it sound easy. It will not be easy. Your friends will wonder what you are doing with me. My associates will judge you for not being from their world. The media might get involved if we are serious. Carter reached across the table, taking both her hands. But Harper, I have everything money can buy except the one thing that actually matters. Someone real. Someone genuine. Someone who makes me want to cancel meetings just to have breakfast with her. The fear and hope I am scared, Harper admitted, her voice breaking slightly. What if this is just the excitement of something new? What if you wake up in a month and realize I am just ordinary? What if I am not enough for your life? Carter stood, pulling her up with him and into his arms. Harper went willingly, pressing her face against his chest and feeling his heart beat strong and steady beneath her cheek. Listen to me. Overs rumbled through his chest. I have dated models, actresses, women who look perfect in every photo, and not one of them made me feel a fraction of what I felt watching you laugh last night. Not one of them made me want to know every story, every dream, every random thought in their head. He pulled back just enough to tilt her face up to his. You are not ordinary, Harper Reed. You are extraordinary. And if you give me a chance, I will prove it to you every single day. The leap of faith. Harper searched his face, looking for any sign that this was temporary, that the fairy tale would end the moment they stepped back into reality. But all she saw was sincerity and hope, and something that looked a lot like the same feeling growing in her own chest. Okay, she whispered. Carter's expression shifted from nervous to joyful in an instant. Okay, let us try this. Date me for real. Show me your world, and let me show you mine. And we will figure out how to make them fit together. Harper managed a wobbly smile. But I have conditions. Name them. No expensive gifts just because you can. No trying to fix my life or upgrade everything. I need to know you want me, not some improved version you think I should be. Carter's kiss was his answer, soft and sweet and full of promise. When he pulled back, he was smiling. Deal, but I get conditions too, such as, be honest with me, always. If this gets too weird, if my world becomes too much, if you need space, tell me. Do not just disappear because you think I am too different. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. And give me a real chance. Do not run the first time things get complicated.
Oh, the promise of tomorrow, I can do that.
Harper agreed. Her phone buzzed from somewhere in the guest room. Reality was calling. I should probably get home. I have work tomorrow, and my roommate is definitely going to have questions about why I never came home. Carter nodded, but did not let her go yet. Have dinner with me tomorrow night. Somewhere normal, somewhere you choose. Your world, your rules. There is a pizza place near my apartment that makes the best deep dish in Chicago. Perfect. He stood there for a moment longer, neither wanting to break the spell. Finally, Harper stepped back. I really do need to go, I know. Carter walked her to the guest room, waiting outside while she changed back into her dress. When she emerged, he was holding a card with his personal number written on it. Call me when you get home safe? Harper took the card, tucking it carefully into her purse. I will. The beginning of everything. Carter had his driver take her home. As the car pulled away from his building, Harper looked back to see him standing on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, watching her leave. He looked vulnerable in that moment. Human. Real. Her phone rang before she was halfway home. Carter's number. You said to call when I got home safe, Harper answered, smiling. I know, but I could not wait that long to hear your voice again. She could hear the smile in his voice too. Is that too much? No, it is exactly right. They talked the entire ride home about nothing important and everything important. When Harper finally climbed the stairs to her apartment, she felt like she was floating. Her roommate took one look at her face and squealed, "Tell me everything." Harper laughed, collapsing onto their worn couch. "You would never believe me if I did." But as she recounted the impossible story of her night, Harper realized something. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best ones. Sometimes getting stood up means you are free to be found by the right person. Sometimes a stranger at a restaurant becomes the start of everything you never knew you needed. Her phone buzzed with a text from Carter. Just a simple message. "Already counting the hours until tomorrow?" Harper typed back, "Me too." The end and the beginning, across the city, Carter sat in his home office, staring at his computer screen without seeing it. His assistant had sent 3 urgent emails. He ignored them all. For the first time in a decade, work was not his priority. He pulled up a blank document and started typing. Not a business plan or a presentation, a list. All the things he wanted to show Harper, all the places he wanted to take her, all the ways he wanted to prove that different worlds could become one if the people in them were brave enough to try. At the top of the list, he wrote, "Be the man she deserves." Because Harper Reed had given him something no amount of money could buy. She had given him hope. Hope that he could be more than his bank account. Hope that someone could love him for who he was, not what he had. Hope that maybe, just maybe, the lonely years were finally over. The sun climbed higher over Chicago as 2 people in very different places smiled at their phones. Already missing each other, already planning tomorrow. Already falling into something that felt a lot like love, and it all started because she was eating alone at a restaurant, till the billionaire joined her.